Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Teacher's Desk. This is Hope and Lori. We are back to give an update on how it is going for us in virtual school. Just a reminder that our thoughts and opinions are solely ours and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of the school systems where we work. So, Lori, how has it been going? It's been how many weeks so far for you?
So 4 weeks with kids, 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks as just starting working as a teacher, like just going back as a teacher.
Right.
We went back like a week and a half before the kids. So
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes, because it's been about 4 weeks for me going back in 3 weeks. This is our third week, I think,
Right.
with the kids.
Mhm.
So how would you say? Do you think it's getting better? What you think?
Honestly, I think it's getting better. I do feel like I don't feel as much anxiety. Do you remember how I had that? I was reading before the words I was writing down as I was feeling every day,
Right.
anxiety, disappointment, whatever. So I haven't wrote any words down for the last, like, it's like every week it gets better. We find out different things, how to handle other things. We're doing a lot of troubleshooting amongst the team of teachers of us that work together. Um, and it's just, I guess it's still, we still have long way to go, but I feel hopeful. Like I feel like, okay, I don't feel as bad as I did the first week.
Yeah, and I agree. I do think that it's getting better. There are a lot of positives, I
Right.
think, to this virtual school.
Mhm.
It's a lot of drawbacks and a lot of negatives, as we have talked about here and there. But I am now am beginning to see more positives to what is taking place, and I'm feeling more positive and less anxious.
Good.
So that is good. I think that as we get comfortable, the kids are going to get comfortable.
Of
One of
course.
the things that I am learning and adjusting to is our classes have been shortened due to the virtual school. We have gone from 90 minutes to 60 minutes.
Oh,
And
okay.
so just kind of making sure that my lesson plan, I'm playing, I feel like I'm over planning. I'm not getting through everything that I have planned right now. So just trying to gauge, and it's different for different classes. Some kids take a little longer. So that has definitely taken some getting used to because I'm like, I didn't get through this. Other people like, well, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm like, I don't know. I'm still trying to get through this lesson. So that has been, it's going to be a work in progress.
I think you should just take it day by day, because with virtual, one thing I do know as a whole about technology, and too, it changes. It changes
Hmm.
so often. And so I think we got to look at, when we're teaching students, we have to look at it like that too. Like, we're constantly changing. I mean, as teachers, we reflect daily anyway. We reflect
Yeah,
all the time, like, how can I make this lesson a little bit more effective? Um,
right,
I know on a daily basis, I'm like, gosh, that didn't work well last mod. Let me see how it's gonna work next mod. Like, I go
right,
from mod to
right,
mod too. So I
right.
think that, like, I know that we all have our expectations of,
Hmm.
expect us to, like, curriculum wise, for us to cover, but we're still going through a pandemic. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? People are still getting sick. I mean, maybe not as much as they were in the beginning, but it's still, we're still going through this. We're still
right,
feeling things.
right.
So I had to learn for myself to, like, just let go of certain, like, not hold on to certain things that I probably would have in a regular environment, because I don't have control over it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Right,
so, I mean, not saying if you don't get through the lesson, oh well, not saying that, but
right, right. But give yourself some grace.
yeah,
Yeah,
you'll drive yourself crazy. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Because there's so many things being changed and so many things being thrown at us. And we honestly, literally, and I think I said this before, had to drop everything in March that we've learned. How many years you've been teaching? If you've been teaching 20 something years,
21 years, yeah.
And you had the way you've been doing something for 21 years, all of a sudden you were told you can't do it that way no more. This is the way you got to do it. And
Right, exactly.
You better learn how to do it because this is how we do it starting today.
Yeah,
that's just not fair, you know.
Yeah, I definitely think that you are definitely right about that. Just giving ourselves that grace to have a learning curve. And I think as teachers, we want to have it down pat because everybody expects for us to have it down pat. And if not, it's like we don't know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So we put that added pressure on ourselves. And I definitely feel myself being able to release and say, okay, this is what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. Let me just work within these parameters and just make it good for that day. Mm-hmm. You know, let me just get through today. And I definitely think that taking one day at a time is going to be the approach that we have to go through.
Yeah, I think so. So let me ask you a question. Have you had any challenges that you've been dealing with that you have not been able to resolve or anything?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for us that we're having so far is assessments for our special education students. You know, having to adhere to the IEPs, the 504s, and we are just having some challenges in working through that. How are they going to get their services so that it doesn't impact our classes? And those resource teachers are wondering, how am I going to get my kids that need services and not impact, you know, for example, kids that need speech therapy or occupational therapists. It's like they're saying, I'm going to get them at this time. We're like, well, you can't have our time. You know, so just finding that balance to work in all of that together. I think that's been the biggest battle, just making sure that kids with IEPs and 504 still get their services. I think another issue has just been with the kids. It's small things, but if we don't get them handled right now, it's going to make a big difference. That's with the camera situation, the names on Zoom, you know, just kind of being graceful, but yet setting that hard expectation so they don't just go off and act like they don't have to do, you know, follow the protocol that is in place, which I understand why the school systems are putting those things in. But sometimes as teachers, when we're just trying to get them to answer questions and be able to navigate from one site to another, we kind of are like, really, is that one more thing we really have to worry about? Is that a big thing? So just kind of finding that balance to what is really important and what we need to be worried about right now, as opposed to what can wait later on. What about you?
So I have a few things. I have a lot of things. Let me get my list. No, I'm just playing.
I know that's right.
But no, I was gonna piggyback off of what you were saying with the testing. I do have we have problems with the testing as well because the kids, they have to take, like, we have this thing that's called bridging assessment, where we're like abridging what they learned from March till now, and it's like a pre-assessment to see where the kids are, and it goes through the test now. It's just like this whole thing. The application we had to use wasn't working and it was shut down, and we got the whole system using it. So that's something that we have to work out as well with the testing. So it's not just a special ed thing. It's like across the board. Because even my daughter was like, one day she was supposed to get on and she was like, I don't know what's going on. It's not working. And I was like, okay, they just sent out an email. Calm down.
Right.
It's not working. So I think that testing is an issue online. I also wrote on my notes about quiet. It's very quiet, and I'm just so used to, because you see how I am. I'm like real energetic, and my kids, like, their behaviors are always, I do have kids that experience some are very challenging, but they always behave well in my class. And I'm just used to all that energy, and we're like laughing, and we're talking, and we're discussing. And I feel like now, because we are distance, doing distance learning, I feel like I'm doing a lot of the, you know, like, I'm like, come on, guys, how you doing?
Yeah.
cold today. How you feel about the weather? Look, I got my sweater on. Y'all got your sweater on, like doing stuff like that to try to get them to talk to me. And I guess that goes with time and them actually, they're going to take a longer time to get to know me, to trust me, to open up.
And they're muted too. So that, it's quiet. You're not even getting a little moving around noise and all of that.
No,
I don't like it's technology. The kids on Wi-Fi and hotspot getting kicked out, and they have to constantly go back in, and the freezing of the computer and the lagging. So that has been a big thing for us. And I was actually talking to our technology person today, and she was saying how a lot of hotspots aren't working, and especially if you have 4 and 5 people on one hotspot, that it lags. Now, somebody on our comment said helicopter parents are live and full effect. And I have had parents that we can't see them, but they are there. And while we know that it's a good thing that kids have support for somebody there, I think that is something that causes some anxiety as a teacher, because not that we think we're saying anything that's going to get us in trouble, but just who's listening? If I correct the kid, will they say that I'm correcting too much or said it in the wrong way? Or, those type of things, you don't know. We have those parents. Some of them stand right in the screen and watch the class themselves.
Yeah.
And some of them, as I address the kid, I've seen them put their face in the thing, and I'm thinking to myself, hello. So definitely those helicopter parents are there.
Yes. Let me see, what else do I have? Oh, so I also so something I wrote is I didn't say lack of self-care, but I feel like because we are home as teachers, I feel like we don't have a shut off button, because you're home. So you're just like, oh, I can get that done. And you might tend to sit in your area for a long period of time. And then by the time you look, you like, oh, when you're trying to get up, you're like, how long I've been sitting for like,
right.
So we got to remember too. I mean, that's just a mental note I put for myself, that when the kids take a break, I need to take a break too. Get up and do what I need to do for myself. Get my water or whatever I need to get, my snacks or whatever.
Yeah.
and stretch my legs and try to move around a little bit and not forget about myself. Give myself 20 seconds off the screen with my eyes.
Yeah, that is true.
I wanted to mention as well.
That's true. And it's funny that you say that, because in my school district, we are still going into the class to Zoom from the class. So those times when we do get to stay home, because we have to go at least 3 days a week, you kind of feel like it's a break, like, oh, I get to sleep in an extra hour today and then get up and do. So that has been a different situation as well. So as Mr. Coden has pointed out, that's right, Donovan, that parents are kind of forced to be our partners. Some of them that are usually antagonistic now is forced to kind of be like, sit down, you need to pay attention. Do you hear what she's saying? So I can say that we do have some parents that have been pushing their kids along.
Yeah, I think I saw a meme, and I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but it's not inappropriate, but it's just a meme where there's a mother sitting at the computer with her son, and she has like a belt in her hand. And she's like sitting there, and so I saw people commenting on it, and she was like, yeah, you got one more time, before.
Right.
So it's kind of like, we as teachers, we can only do so much with discipline in the school building, but it's like now the parents starting to see, oh, when you're calling me about little Johnny, now I'm starting to see what you're talking about with little Johnny.
Right, exactly.
Right all over the place. Yeah. So
yeah, and we have heard stories of unfortunate situations where parents may have acted inappropriately, or done inappropriate things on while their kids are on Zoom, crimes happening. I mean, all sorts of things. We are getting a full lens into your house. And I think some parents have felt like they're not gonna think I'm crazy. You know, you're gonna get yourself together so we can at least present a good front. But then unfortunately it's some things that are out of their control that they are still dealing with. And I have had kids say when I've asked them to unmute and ask a question or answer a question that it's too loud in the background, or it's too much going on, and they're embarrassed to take themselves off of mute because it's every now and then they accidentally take themselves off of mute, and you do hear a lot going on.
Yeah, I hear a lot,
and I have to remute them. Yeah. So it's just so much that they're dealing with that we are trying to get a handle on. It's been definitely tough going.
Yeah, definitely. I find myself being more flexible too as a teacher, where I give them multiple ways of responding. They can do chat box. Like a lot of times I ask them a question, I say, unmute yourself. And because my classes are a little smaller, so I can do that where I can tell them to unmute themselves and answer. And because I'm starting to learn that a lot of them don't like to answer. So when I say unmute yourself, there might be one, but my kids, they've been doing pretty well with using the reaction buttons, raising their hand, because the reaction button, in case you people are listening that don't know, you can raise your hand, you could have put a thumbs up, you can put a laughing emoji, you can put party time or whatever. So they've been doing really good with the reaction buttons, but they also have an option of, if they don't want to answer me verbally, they can answer in the chat box. And so a lot of the kids have been taking advantage of that. And what they will do, if it's something that they don't want the other students to know that they don't know, they send me a chat privately, which is good because, they'll send me saying like, I don't understand. Can you please explain to me? And I'll just figure a way how to explain it. Like I'll say, oh, okay, guys, let me go over this one more time.
Right. So they're not embarrassed.
You don't know how to get to brain.
Right.
Let me show you.
And it's interesting that you said that, because one difficult thing has been navigating between the chat box, the screens, and the camera. Because when you are sharing your screen, you can't see everybody at one time. So then I'm constantly kind of scrolling through the kids trying to see who's paying attention, who turned off their camera, who's not at their screen. It's difficult to be able to navigate all of that. And then they sending me chats in the chat box, and I'm having to get off and look at,
and look at the chat box at the same time. You can't.
Yeah, kids are getting kicked out, coming back in the waiting room. So you got the little doorbell ringing. You like, wait a minute, what's going on? Wait, let me stop sharing my screen. So every now and then I stop sharing my screen and put them where I can see most of the morning, and then just say, raise your hand if you need help. Just unmute yourself and talk and say which number you need. Because I need to see all of them at one time.
Yes.
Because when I can't, it just creates some difficulties. I've been using the breakout rooms more and more. So that has been a good thing. But, you kind of got some security things with the breakout rooms. But so far, so good. I haven't had any issues with that. So just trying to bounce all the balls for the whole hour. At the same time, entertaining, and like you said, drawing them out. Well, look at this. What you doing? Why are you over here? Why? One little boy was doing this the other day in class. He was doing this. I said, are you throwing up gang signs in the computer? He said, no, I'm doing Naruto. I'm not throwing up gang signs. This is Naruto. And I'm like, you distracted me.
Right.
So, it's just having to see all this stuff. Now, I've had to turn my chat to just private.
Right.
Because every now and then somebody will put in the chat, my dog swallowed my pencil, or something crazy.
Right.
I just blew water out my nose and it hurts. I'm like, no, that's not what we're doing. So it's private chat. So we've had to kind of make those adjustments along the way.
Right.
But yes, that has been difficult, being able to navigate all of those things.
And it's funny that you said about the easily distracted. That's true, because I myself am easily distracted by what's going on in the screen while I'm teaching. And I have one student that, and I think I mentioned this before, like in our school, our kids, they have the option to turn off their camera, right? Mm-hmm. But this one student I have, he does not turn off his camera, and he has a hammock in his room, right? So he is on the hammock, and while I'm teaching, he's listening to me because I see him, but he's like, right,
right,
and
right.
I'm looking, I'm like, is he on a hammock? So in my mind, I'm like, is he on a hammock? And I want to be like, stay still, but I started thinking, oh, he might be that type of learner. He might be that child that needs to move around in the classroom. And it's crazy because we were talking about learning style. We were talking about learning style, and he automatically, when I told him the different types, and how, you prefer one style, he automatically said, I'm a kinesthetic. I'm a kinesthetic learner, which means that he likes to move around and do activities. So every time he comes on, he's like, are we doing a Kahoot today? Like you could tell he was that type. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just it's just so different.
Yeah, it's different, but I do have, I appreciate it as well. I do appreciate it. And I think that while the kids are ready to go back to school, they appreciate it on some level, being able to, be in the comfort of their homes and being able to kind of have that no pressure response. And just the different styles of the kids. I'm already picking up who's the overachiever, who's going to be out there raising their hand every 5 minutes, and then who is raising their hand, but they really don't know when you call them. They like, oh, I didn't think you was going to call on me because my hand was raised. So we already starting to pick up personalities here and there, but it has been more difficult to kind of gauge who needs help, who is still writing, because they still taking notes, they still doing all that stuff. So just having all of that. But so far, so good in the virtual world of teaching.
Well, one positive thing,
a long way to go.
Yeah, one positive thing I definitely can say about it is that I feel that the students, I don't know in general, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this, but I know that in my school, a lot of times when you ask kids to do things on their phone, they're able to do this, they're able to do that, they're able to record, do this, that, and then you give them a computer and they're like, okay, so what am I supposed to do?
Right.
I get that. How do I research it? I'm like, but you know how to do all that stuff on your phone. You should know how to do that.
Yeah, I think we often make that mistake. Kids on their phone all the time on the game. They should know how to be like, this is not the same thing.
So one thing I can say is that they are gaining knowledge on how to use a Chromebook or how to use a laptop, because they have to do things on there that they never had to do before,
Right. And without us helping them, because I was just the other day getting my kids to go to another site, and I put up the password, and I had like 3 or 4 kids like, the password's not working. I can't get it. It's not working. And so one little girl, I said, well, let you share your screen so I can see what she had it all wrong, had it typed in wrong. I'm like, that's not even what the password said. So, usually in the classroom, I will go over there and kind of navigate on the computer. Here it is. I save it so that you don't have to keep putting it in. So those type of things have been difficult for kids and parents, because parents are like, you need to put everything in Google Classroom. I'm like, no, sometimes they're going to have to go to Clever, go on another site. Everything is not going to come through Google Classroom. So that definitely, yes, has been an issue. The biggest thing is probably the technology, though, the lagging, the Wi-Fi. I'm like, where is the 5G? Who are we with 5G all over the place?
Where the bandwidth? Yeah, that is a big problem. A lot of my students have been kicked out. They get kicked out. And so I just told them as a general rule, if you get, for whatever reason, you get kicked out, you need to send me a message and then come immediately back in. And it's been working well. The kids have been, they'll say,
they do. Most of my kids that get kicked out, right, they come out. One little girl came in 7 times.
Yeah.
Like she just kept getting kicked out and kept coming back in. And every 2 minutes, it was like, ding dong, ding dong. And I'm like, who is it now? But they have already begun to do observations in my area.
Oh, wow.
We have already had administrators come in at one time. One day I had 3 administrators at one time, along with the people from the city. So
that's because you're the bomb teacher.
No, they were doing all of us. They were going around. But I was just thinking to myself, really, today already? Like, I'm still not completely sure.
You were fun.
But they were positive. You know, they were there just there, I'm sure, to kind of see how it's going and navigate through, and you know, but I feel like that nothing has been taken off the table. We are still under observations. We are still going through ASOs. We still got to post lesson plans. We still got like all of these things that we would do. As you said, we are in a pandemic, and it seems like they kind of being understanding, but then at the same time, I'm thinking, really, you gotta come to my class again?
Maybe they just coming to see how they can support you.
I'm sure they are coming, and I'm sure they are coming up with all sorts of plans and ways in which they can support it. I must say that I am blessed to have a great administration that really are teacher oriented. So I really do think that when they come around, that which they are coming often, they are coming with the intention of how is it going? What can we do to support you? And yes, Donovan, we should get a gold medal. Some comp time, a little bit of everything. A raise, at least our cost of living raise. We should get that.
Well, we got ours, so I can't really complain.
We're not getting ours, but they told us we weren't going to get it before all of this. So I guess we really can't, you know, it's not like we can really say much, but it's like it has its drawbacks, it has its benefits, but I am feeling more hopeful than I was at the beginning. Another thing is because I told you that we had to go into the school and Zoom from our classes. I have been very pleased with the level of cleaning that has taken place.
Oh, cool.
As far as our custodians, we have an awesome custodian staff, but they come around very often, at least 2 or 3 times within an hour, to wipe off the switches, to wipe down the doorknobs, to clean the bathrooms, to, you know, just trying to make us feel that they are comfortable in the building. So I am pleased. But as far as them saying that we're going to be in our class, we still walk around and talk to each other. We got a mask on. It's not as much. And we doing our social distancing. But we kind of like, we lonely in here by ourselves all day.
So let me ask you a question before we wrap up. So when is your projected date to return back?
Our projected date is November the 2nd, which is the end of the first quarter.
Okay.
So we were only on for 1 quarter. So that's going to be a whole new set of talks and issues when we go back, because it's going to be an upheaval in schedules and changing things around and all of that stuff. So unless they decide to make it a semester and push us back to January, because our semester doesn't end to the end of January, we are going back after November the 2nd. So whatever that is.
Have you heard any talk about when they would make that decision definite, or?
I haven't heard any talk about it, but I can say that we get things left and right. You know, things are constantly changing. One day we want you to do it this way. Then the next week, don't do it that way. Do it this way. So I think that they are still making it up as they go along in some regards. While they have an idea and a projection, I do think that they are still kind of playing it along, seeing how things are going to go, seeing how the numbers change, all of those things. And then we will get hopefully some type of advance notice that's more than a week in advance.
So we'll get something. I think that I feel like, I don't want to say that the numbers are going down, but I don't hear as many people getting sick like I was before. How do you feel about that?
I think that is true, and I don't know if that is just because that is an election year.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so many other things that's been in the news with, you know, the Chief Justice, this person dying here and there, the election. I don't know if it's kind of getting lost in some of all of that.
Right.
I do know, though, that there has been a push in some areas that have gone back to school fully. a lot of those people have contracted the disease or be an associate with someone, and parents are not getting their kids tested because they don't want the numbers to go up, because they don't want to be put back on virtual. So I don't know if we are getting the full effect. And I know it was going around and posts going around that said, if you get a call from the school that said your kids might come in contact with COVID, don't take them to get tested. Because school systems are not requiring a negative test to come back. They just want you to stay home for 2 weeks. So if a parent is saying my child stayed home for 2 weeks and now they're well enough to come back to school, because we don't want those numbers to go up, because we don't want them to put us back on virtual school. So I don't know, but I do know there have been cases where kids have gone to school. So who's to say if we go to school, then we won't have cases? It's just a catch-22.
No, there's gonna be cases. I don't think COVID is going anywhere. I think there's gonna be cases, especially when we're talking about hundreds of people being in the same building,
right,
for hours.
We have people traveling. We still have people going around and acting like that is business as usual, not wanting to wear their mask. So it's out there. It's just not bombarded in the news as it was before. And I think that is a lot due to the election, and that being the main focus right now.
I'm telling you this, coming from New York City, I'm waiting because New York City has postponed their opening date. So they usually open after Labor Day, but they're not open yet. They haven't opened schools yet. So I'm dying to hit that. From what I understand, I think if they didn't open this week, they're supposed to open soon, shortly. And I'm dying to see, because their school system is so large. I'm dying to see like how that turns out, because they're like kind of the guinea pigs, I want to say, for everybody else who hasn't been in school. We're doing remote learning.
Right.
Because they're supposed to be going back to the building, from what I understand.
Well, we will keep our eye out on the news for that, and that will definitely be a discussion that we can have on how it's going, and hopefully we can get any teachers out there from New York that would love to come on and talk about your experience when you go back, or what things they are putting in place. Please reach out to us and let us know. We would love to hear from you and talk to you as we wrap up. So I think we are safe to say, Lori, that we are hopeful. We are getting better. Some of the anxiety that we had at the beginning, we could kind of say has subsided. Maybe some new issues have arose that we didn't think about then. But for the most part, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we can have some hope that all of this will work out and kids will be successful. And we know that they will.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you to those of us that joined us. Don't forget to like our page and subscribe to our YouTube page. And thank you so much for taking the time out to interact with us today. All right. Have a good evening.
Bye. Have a good evening.